Hello there, and welcome to Fixing the Sequel Trilogy, the Writers' Room podcast dedicated to fixing the Star Wars sequels. This week is part 5 of Fixing The Force Awakens, and today Mello and I have something brand new for you. I'm Bryce Quinn, and I'm joined by my writing co-pilot, Mello Keating.
Hey, mate.
How you doing?
Good. No intro today.
You're my writing co-pilot.
I'm your writing co-pilot?
That's been the whole thing for the whole series.
Oh, true. I just missed the original intros.
Yeah,
Anyway.
we'll get them back soon. I'm also joined by our returning whipmaster, Sandro Karayan. Good to have you back, Sandro. Jesus.
That was a whip sound.
I mean, yeah. What if I just took that out and added in like an actual whip crack? Like right now.
Yeah, that's awesome. That was actually mine. I think mine was better, but
You probably do think that. But it's good to have you back, Sandro. We had Emily for the past 2 weeks, and now you're back.
yeah, no. So bit of context. I've heard episode 3,
And I filled you in vaguely on episode 4.
vaguely on episode 4.
So you're mostly caught up.
Yeah, mostly caught up. I think I'm gonna approach this one. Try come in just with like a complete fresh mind, just blank,
That's
blank slate.
Good luck. You do have a history of migraines whenever Mel and I hit you with some crazy
Yeah,
stuff.
so I think it's just gonna be easier if I just come in with a blank slate.
Yeah.
But-
and then get to the migraines at the end.
Blank slate's a good plan.
Yeah, but this is, I think, very cohesive. We just spent a few days in the last week
Yes.
really like
So
refining
between
our stuff.
episode last week was part 4, today is part 5, and between those 2 episodes, Mel and I have spent quite a few hours going through and combining and creating a new kind of synthesis of our 2 beat sheets into a brand new version that has a bunch of new ideas in it.
Yeah.
We're going to go through the whole thing today up until we run off the edge of the tracks because we only made so much track, and it's going to be a bit of a Looney Tunes situation, but it should be a fun ride. But yeah, let's just get right into it.
Looks like them Star Wars, fixing the Star Wars trilogy boys have fallen off the tracks.
Exactly.
What are they gonna do now?
How are they going to get out of this one? We'll see at the end of the show.
This is going to be a Final Destination ending.
Oh, no. But we're going to go beat for beat. I'm going to read one beat, and then we'll discuss. And then, Mello, you'll read the next beat, and we'll discuss. Opening image / prologue. And once again, we're going to be going off the Save the Cat beat sheet. So if you're familiar, you'll be very familiar with this. If you're not, maybe go check that one out.
They should sponsor us.
They should, even though it's just one guy who wrote one book.
Mm.
But
Years
oh,
ago.
yeah, years ago. In 2005. It's an old book. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
before Netflix became like a proper thing. And anyway.
Is that the metric by which we measure time?
No, because look, I've got a whole rant about this.
This BN and AN.
In the Lord of our Savior.
Look, I just
Netflix,
think it's interesting.
year
The whole
one.
book, the whole Save the Cat book is written from the perspective of someone who writes really good comedy films, like comedy family movies.
Yeah.
Before Netflix changed the filmmaking dynamic in Hollywood,
No,
those
right,
movies
yeah.
don't really get made anymore.
Yeah,
So
true.
anyway, I find it interesting.
Maybe he should update it.
There's been more books since then. They're just a lot less popular.
Okay, yep.
Anyways, I could go on about this for ages. Opening image / prologue. Han and Chewie investigate a kyber laser being built on the Outer Rim. The operation is a trap set by the First Order, and Han and Chewie are taken captive by General Phasma. Phasma orders a soldier, FN-2187, to escort them to the brig. During the scene, we get some comedic relief between this soldier, who will later be named Finn, and Han and Chewie. Finn is seen to be fiercely loyal to the Empire.
Yes. Now, context, Imperial remnants
Yes.
still exist. They're much weaker. They're a sort of a combined hodgepodge of criminal underworld sort of organizations and Imperial remnant stuff. And the
Yeah.
First Order is just a particular one.
First Order is just one of those chunks of Imperial Remnant, and we'll see a lot more of that later. But Phasma is kind of the big bad of this one.
Yep.
Any questions so far, Sandra? Sounds pretty familiar.
Cool. My
Your turn, yeah.
Cool. Okay. We have our theme stated. So, Ben Solo and Luke Skywalker train together on Arc 2, alongside a small academy of Jedi younglings. Luke tells Ben that he is too bold and brash and cares too deeply about his family legacy because the weight of the world is on Ben Solo's shoulders as he sees it. So that's, that of Han, Leia, and Luke himself and their heroics during the Civil War weigh heavily on his mind. Ben must learn patience and balance, such as the key lessons of a Jedi. We will see later that Rey must learn a similar lesson, but in reverse. She cares about nothing, just herself, and she must learn to find the balance in caring too much and too little.
I think that's why Ben and Rey mirror each other so well. That's
Yeah.
something that we've definitely stumbled upon in 100 different ways.
Yeah.
Coming at Rey and Ben as this shared duo character and all the different ways we can come at it. But that seems to be the simplest, most elegant way of putting it for now. Something to bring up now that we'll touch on this later on. We haven't mentioned here whether Ben knows about Darth Vader.
No.
And that's because Mello and I disagree on whether he does or not.
Gotcha.
I think it should be revealed in episode 8 in the next film. Mello thinks he should already know now.
I think that
Either
should be,
way,
yeah.
it doesn't bear on this story.
No,
which is
no.
interesting.
Like, what kind of master is Luke?
Luke
Goodness.
here.
Are we going to break into this now?
Luke here is, we both agree, he's a good master, but it's not perfect. And there's some friction there between the two.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
Ben is just so brash and bold and he wants to run out and be a
Yes.
hero.
My thing for Luke is that I've never envisioned him being the right teacher for Ben.
Yeah.
I've always wanted him to be the right teacher for Rey.
Interesting.
But I want him and Ben to clash just because of different philosophies.
And like, Ben has this learning style and then Luke has this teaching style and they just don't quite mix.
Adding to the immense pressure that Ben feels, which is entirely self-inflicted, I wanted him to already know about Vader.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that's something they would keep from him. That would be part of Luke's teaching. So he's constantly in this battle of how do I balance wanting to be a hero like you guys were, and he obviously misunderstands what that means, whilst also not falling prey to what Anakin fell prey to when they have very similar personalities.
Yeah. See, my thinking for that is, and there is definitely some similarities to the reveal in Empire Strikes Back, I don't want Ben to have faced any tragedy or adversity until this film. And I just think the whole Vader internal conflict is too strong and too interesting of an internal motivator for it to be a part of this movie.
Yeah.
And then later on, once he has the tragedy of losing his dad, I really want that to be something that drives him in the next film when he discovers and really pushes him right up to the edge of being a Sith.
Whereas
That's where I'm coming from.
Whereas my thing, and we'll open this to the listeners, is
Yeah.
I just don't want to do the
reveal.
the Vader father reveal again.
Which is fair enough.
Yeah.
It's a very fair point. You don't want to rehash some of the greatest hits of Star Wars. You don't want to be just doing those same things again.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a definitely
yes.
conversation for later. I just thought I'd bring that up now, and then we'll move on into the setup. Rey, a lowly thief, steals her living on the mean streets of an Outer Rim space station. And I left this name submissions encouraged. If
Yes,
anyone has any ideas, we
please.
can definitely brainstorm this later as well. I don't have a name for this. We can leave it.
Rust Station.
Rust Station.
Scrapper City.
Her boss is Unkar Plutt, a horrible gangster who runs the space station and works beneath the huts. We get a day in the life of Rey and her 6 things that need fixing. This is a term from Save the Cat. She's broke, she has no real job, she's bullied by bounty hunters and her boss, she has no ship or freedom, no safe place to call home, and most importantly, no real friends to look out for her.
Look at you. I remember last week when we were discussing the 6 things. I'm like, that's a lot of things.
It is a lot of things.
And then you thought of 6 things.
I just made them up. We can
Yeah.
change any of those.
No, it's
It
true.
doesn't, the 6 is like a lot. You don't really need 6,
Yeah.
but it's a good kind of frame of reference to help build character as well. She does, however, have Maz Kanata, a bounty hunter handler who helps Rey stay out of the gutter, giving her some jobs potentially. Still very nebulous on the relationship between her, Maz, and Unkar Plutt. We can discuss. In this setup part of the story, Rey gets a job, a debt collection job, on a local bounty hunter who is money owing on his bar tab. The burglary, is nearly successful, but Rey gets caught and is chased through the oily streets of the space station, only narrowly escaping. We also set up that Unkar Plutt is currently out of town at some big meeting with all the crime lords. Now, so most of this, Mello, you and I wrote together. I've added some extra details.
No, that's
but-
good. So I like the job thing.
Yeah.
What we kind of saw Maz Kanata as being, Sandro, was kind of this like just we get a lot of bartender stuff, or like the diner and the cantina and stuff in Star Wars. But what we don't get, which is a key Western staple, is the wise advice giving bartender. Always cleaning a glass, always good for a chat.
Yes.
Which is
Which is
how we see Maz
awesome,
Kanata.
and such a fun character archetype.
Yeah, because we just see no droids, don't know to serve droids here,
Yeah, they don't really talk to the bartender much in A New Hope.
So we want this bartender, and it's just nice for Rey to have just some sort of wise figure just at the start, before them being thrust into the adventure.
Or some kind of, you can't just have it be awful and bleak the entire time. I think that's one of the weaknesses of The Force Awakens. It shows Rey's life sucks, but it sucks so hard that you can't even relate to her because she's got nothing and no one to even come close to a support system. At least Maz is sort of neutral and distant, but has some kind of kindness towards Rey.
Yeah. Now, the oil bit. I just want to touch on that for a sec.
I think, did you throw this idea
I did,
out?
yeah.
That it's an oily space station?
It's like greasy.
Because it's just grease and oil everywhere?
Yeah, because it's just like living within a machine.
I'm
essentially
getting more of a vibe of this space station, and I think I know what the name should be called.
You got an idea? Let's throw it
should
out.
be called, is it Downtown in Robots, the movie?
Oh, shit. Well, now you've got the aesthetic down pat.
That's where my mind went immediately.
That's glorious.
That's perfect.
Yeah, no, because I had this thought where it's like, okay, so walking through the streets is kind of like Blade Runner-esque, but instead of standing in a puddle of rain because it's a space station, it's a puddle of grease.
No, I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Here's
So
something
instead
that
of being
is-
covered in dirt, you're all covered in grease.
Here's something that is very
Slimy.
Star Wars. If there is some kind of fake atmosphere that they've built and it's gotten completely corrupted and it rains oil now. That feels
just
really Star Wars in
leaking.
like a weird science fantasy kind of way.
Yeah.
And she's running through these the rainy streets, but you got to keep an
Yeah,
umbrella.
yeah.
If you're rich, you got an umbrella to keep the oil off.
Yeah,
I don't know. There's
yeah.
something fun
It's
there.
steam vents and it's oil.
Oh, dude, it's slow Blade Runner, but even worse.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that's fun.
Do
So
the droids just stand out in the rain?
Oh, yeah,
oh,
it's
brilliant.
a fucking
free oil bath.
droid haven.
That's awesome. Okay, you're
my
right.
turn, it's my
So
turn,
that's
isn't
the
it?
setup with Ray. That's
Yeah.
what we see, and I think we've got a lot of time here to really explore like what the mean streets of the space station look like. It's our first main like set piece, and we're gonna do more action stuff here as well. So.
Yep.
Right. So Arc 2's not really like a main set piece.
No.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
No, Arc 2, it's like we'll see it twice and then it's gone.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
pretty
moving on.
much.
Okay, so our catalyst and inciting incident, General Phasma, has called together a meeting of the leaders of the Imperial Remnant to the Outer Rim, alongside the biggest leaders of the crime world, to offer them a deal. Phasma wants to go to war with the New Republic, beginning with destroying Hosnian Prime. None of the leaders want to join her crusade, and so she activates her kyber laser, destroying the capital city of Nal Hutta, the Hutt homeworld.
Ooh.
Finn reacts in horror, as in his eyes, Phasma has just betrayed the Empire by firing on other Imperial Remnant leaders.
They were on
They were all on Nal Hutta together.
Nalhutta together.
I'm thinking
Like-
maybe some of them Skyped in hologram wise.
Yeah, and then
But most were physically there.
And none of them joined her. None of them wanted to join her.
no,
like,
no,
no,
it's
yeah.
it's this kind of like, so she's up on her ship, the hologramming in, and they're all down there, and she's coming at it from such a radical view where they're like, we're still remnants, we're still building, and but they don't know what she knows, that she has a kyber laser.
Yeah.
So she has a means, and she thinks she's ready. So in a moment of pure action, Finn steals Phasma's key to the kyber laser.
So this is something we're gonna have to talk about. Come back to later.
Do I keep going with these other notes?
Yeah. Keep
Yep.
going on this other. So just ignore the kyber laser key for now. We're gonna touch more on that in a second. But once the laser gets fired, we cut over to Luke and Ben.
We immediately cut to Luke and Ben, who wake up in the middle of the night. They sense the destruction. Luke tells Ben to meditate with him, and they listen to what else the Force can tell them. We cut back to Finn, who is freeing Han and Chewie. We get a comedic back and forth between these three as they haphazardly escape Phasma's ship on the Falcon. Happy to stop it there, I think.
Oh,
Keep going?
this is
Okay.
still like part of the inciting incident
Okay.
section.
So Luke and Ben sense that Han and Chewie are in trouble. Ben wants to run off to save them both. Luke cautions Ben, however, telling him that the Force is not always precise with its visions, and that things they are seeing may not be exactly as they are. So one of their Jedi acolytes, Lor San Tekka, will be arriving in a few hours, and will have more precise news on what is happening and what they should do next. Phasma discovers the theft of her firing key, or whatever this sort of key device is, and becomes enraged, putting out a huge bounty on Han, Chewie, and FN-2187.
So just quickly with the key thing. If you take out the key from these scenes, it doesn't really change a whole lot. She's still enraged that Han, Chewie, and Finn have left, so she puts out the bounty either way. We're playing with this idea of the key. We're going to talk about that later. That definitely comes a lot more into effect in Act 3. But just imagine a nuclear launch code style like fob you put in and twist.
Yeah. You do the whole briefcase thing.
And yeah, you got
even as well. Yeah. What we're toying whether or not to do a sort of MacGuffin-based thing, but regardless, they have escaped, so that's enough.
So that's the big inciting incident. Phasma assembles this Acme panel style of like the worst of the Outer Rim.
In that, though, it'd be really interesting, though, Sandra, because you'd see old sort of like imperially dressed officers. You'd see like a hut. You'd see like
Bounty
a member
hunters
of the
and
Black
stuff.
Sun.
You see
some
Unkar Plutt.
Unkar
Wait,
Plutt.
so she didn't. If there's some old Imperial officers, did she kill every remnant then?
Not every remnant, but the idea of this scene is that she has hit a huge amount of power in the Outer Rim
Right, gotcha.
and taken them out all in
oh,
one go.
okay. So she hasn't really killed the entire force of those
No,
remnants.
just
the
their leaders.
Their leaders.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. I do. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
I'm all for that. I thought she was just killing all of them, and I'm like,
Yeah.
no.
No, so
Yes.
this city is like a crime world city, and they've gathered
Yeah.
Imperial Remnant and crime
Okay,
leaders,
so
and
she's
they've taken them all
She's
out in
gotten
one
the
go.
bosses, and
Yes.
now she can recruit all
All
their
the armies
underlings.
and all the underlings.
Yes.
Yeah,
You cut-
exactly.
You cut the head off the monster. You're free to use the body however you'd
Use
like.
the body like a puppet.
Gross. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. And then immediately after the laser fires, Luke and Ben wake up in the middle of the night. They sense the destruction, and then we get some intercutting between them as Finn and Han and Chewie escape off the ship together. Obviously, unlikely allies in the situation. Finn has turned against Phasma because his internal motivator is his love for the Empire, and he believes that it works. And he thinks that Phasma is on the same side. And then she destroys, in his eyes, she betrays the rest of the Imperial Remnant. Even though they're not like the same groups, they have the same goal, ultimately, is how he sees it. And Phasma's gone against that.
Groovy. Do we get dyad stuff there?
No, definitely not yet. I
That
don't
stuff
think.
might have already happened. Shared dreams, perhaps, but
In this one, and what I've been pitching is that no proper dyad stuff happens until like Act 2.
right.
But that's also
Until they
okay
have a
as well.
crossover
Yep.
for
Yeah.
the first time.
Until they like meet each other
Yep.
and then like kind of.
In which that can
Okay,
be like an
interesting.
activation point,
Yeah.
I guess.
And then so they escape. Luke and Ben then have like sort of a bit of an argument about whether to run out straight away or to wait for more information. And then Phasma puts out the bounty. That's the really important stuff. We will cover the key later, but potentially Finn has stolen the key that activates the kyber laser. So the debate. Ben Solo begins prepping the ship for launch. There's a transport ship that's on Arc 2.
Gotcha.
And he argues with R2, who's saying, like, beeping at him. And then Ben's like, I want to go and save Dad, etc., etc.
Translate for R2.
Yeah. And then we've got a
Fuck
bit
it.
of like,
Don't.
does R2 go with him? Does he not?
Yeah, does R2 go with him? Does he not? Like, what is the situation?
Now?
How does he escape from Luke without Luke noticing? That's
Gotcha.
still a bit of a question mark for exactly how
okay,
that scene
right.
plays out.
If R2 didn't go with him, he would tell Luke.
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah, right.
And then either way, he leaves on his quest to save Han Solo and doesn't listen to Luke Skywalker.
Gotcha.
We then cut to Rey. Rey discovers that Unkar Plutt and a bunch of the other big players on the Outer Rim were just killed. She is free now, but has nowhere to go, no money, and no ship. So she goes to Maz Kanata, but on the way, she pickpockets a bounty puck from the same bounty hunter she stole, was her mark in the first part in the setup. She sees this sort of as a way of payback for her painful chase through the streets. She's kind of a bit petty here. She's like, I can steal from this guy who, made me trip and fall and like graze my arm or like hurt me in some way.
Landed me in a grease puddle.
Landed me in a grease puddle, yeah. And so she steals the bounty puck is like a small act of
He has,
revenge.
like, sleight of hand +8.
Exactly. And then, much to her surprise, she has found a golden ticket. A bounty worth 1 million credits for the capture of Han Solo, Chewbacca, and the First Order Trooper, FN 2187.
Do we get to see what the bounty hunter looks like?
Oh, yeah, I want to give you guys, and not me, the job of designing
Is
the cool
that
bounty
bounty
hunter
Well,
look.
what I was
Or
going
is
to
that
do
cool
is,
cameo time?
I think I was just going to steal the Crimson Corsair.
Crimson Corsair design
That's- yeah,
rocks.
that's so valid.
Have it be the Crimson Corsair.
And him
done.
just like tapping his pockets, like,
Yeah.
where's my
Yeah.
bounty puck?
Rey sits down with Maz Kanata to discuss what her options are because she wants freedom but has no idea how to get it. Maz gives Rey some good advice about the difference between freedom and purpose, but they are interrupted when the bounty hunter storms back into the bar looking for the puck.
Oh no.
As Rey is getting surrounded by bounty hunters, Ben Solo enters the bar and overhears the name of his father getting tossed around. He leaps into action and a bar fight ensues. Maz manages to usher Rey and Ben out of the chaos, tell Ben that he's a fool for coming here without Luke. Ben doesn't care and offers to fly Rey to Finn if she agrees to lose the bounty on Han and Chewie. Seeing no other option, Rey agrees and they hurry out of the bar to the greasy rooftops of the space station. Rey joins Ben in his stolen transport ship and they fly off towards Takodana.
Okay, so I might need to stop you there.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the beat.
Yeah, okay, there's a lot happening.
There's a lot in this
There
debate
is.
section,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay.
So we pre-established when it comes to Ben and R2's conversation that Maz Kanata is an ally.
Yeah.
And kind of like a really good first point of call in the Outer Rim.
Yep.
When trying to find shit out.
Yeah, sure. No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's why Ben heads to Maz Kanata.
hits to Maz Kanata. So Ben enters, hears his name getting his
Look,
name
I
getting
threw
thrown
this
in that
together this
round.
morning. The important part of this scene is that Rey is there and she is stolen from this bounty hunter to get this puck. The bounty hunter comes back to get the puck, and then Ben jumps in to try and save Rey.
Yeah,
It's just a chance for him to be
I
a
get
hero.
that.
It's kind of yeah.
My following question is why Ben gets Rey to go with him.
That's a good question. So Rey has the bounty puck, and we're assuming that somewhere in this kind of chaotic scene, she gets a bit of information about where Han, Chewie, and Finn are supposed to be.
Yeah.
As with the bounty hunter would have been tracking them
Now,
down.
yeah. Now whether that is the fact that the bounty hunter's done some of the legwork, or the First Order had a tracking device on the Falcon, which seemed the Imperial way.
Yeah.
It's also happened again, so that'd be a really funny callback.
It would be, but it's also like, why would Phasma put out a bounty hunter?
If
call?
you're not expecting it. Yeah. Either way, some sort of establishment that we would know enough of a general sort of area where they're heading.
And how do we make it also then feel like that it's Rey's decision?
That's a good point.
Because it feels like
She's kind of having the decision made for her here.
Yeah.
No, it is this, the debate section of like, do I run out into the galaxy and try and get a bounty that will give me the freedom that I want and get like a bunch of money? Or do I kind of stay here free from Unkar Plutt but still living in my kind of shitty life? That presenting that question, making it very clear that, those are her choices, and then her deciding to go with Ben. And I think the interesting thing about her joining with Ben is that Ben has the ship, so she has the potential for going on this adventure. They're going to join together. And she has the bounty puck and potentially have it be that she only has the way of finding the three of them.
Yeah, she doesn't have a ship.
Yeah.
Because she's a local. She lives here. She has no other means of getting off.
So they really should have no choice but to work together, and the choice is whether to do it or not.
Pretty much. And also, like, she might be, in a way, a little defenseless without him, especially, this sort of trouble she just got into with a bounty hunter.
Yeah.
How on earth is she gonna, go on this galaxy-spanning adventure to go and kidnap these three, two like, war heroes and a stormtrooper?
Yeah.
Just as her.
Exactly.
Right, gotcha.
But yeah, so they each have something that the other needs in order to find the people they're looking for.
Yeah, because Ben needs the puck.
Ben needs the coordinates, the direction, and that's what Rey has.
But she's selfish. She would not give that up.
Got you. And Ben's not just gonna take it off her by force.
I guess
no,
maybe?
because he's not a bad person.
Cool. Okay.
So
Maybe that's a
strikes
question.
deal.
That could be a question that is brought up. He's like, I could just like take it off of you, or something, and then they have like a bit of like a competitive back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's like, try it.
I think if he were to do that though, it'd be more of like a I could just take it from you. And
Yeah.
but he doesn't really mean he doesn't intend it. It's kind of just like a maybe you should give.
And this also could be the potential like beginnings of some romance. Like that could be the reason. Maybe he's crushing on Ray, and that's why he doesn't just immediately punch her in the head.
He's stuck on an island for 16 years, or like
Are we
however
doing-
long he's been there. Sees young woman of same age, instantly falls in love.
That seems pretty legit.
Anakin Padme.
Are we
Exactly.
doing Raylo, or I guess in this case Ren?
I mean, potentially. I don't know.
Well, I think we're setting it up. I think that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
But it's all
Right.
this is all secondary to the fact that the real romance that we'll introduce in episode 8 is Finpo.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
More on that later.
That's where the focus is. Okay, break into Act 2. So
Yes.
Luke waits as Law Santeca steps off his transport ship, and they catch each other up on everything that's happened. Luke then leaves with Law to take care of the leaves Law to take care of the younglings. As he flies off with R2 to Hosni and Prime, we finally get Leia. Leia Organa and Lando Calrissian are in an emergency Senate meeting where hundreds of galactic voices shout about the recent news of a Kyber laser firing in the Outer Rim. Leia calls for an immediate rescue operation to save Han and Chewie. Senator Hux calls for all ships to be recalled to Hosni and Prime due to the imminent Kyber laser threat. He also calls for the long-needed construction of a New Republic Kaiser laser, which would mean overturning decades-old
You said Kaiser laser.
Kaiser laser? Fuck yeah. Wow, this thinly veiled
got
analog
dark.
is just even thinner. Kaiser laser. Fuck it. Sounds
Oh, that's
cooler.
gold.
No. Sorry. Yeah, so like this would mean overturning, decades-old legislation that outlaws this shit. Leia responds by requesting a formal Senate debate and vote to determine the path forward, to which Hux agrees.
And that is the end of Act 1.
Yep.
And I feel like there's pretty much rock solid. The rocky stuff is the launch, is the firing key that Phasma has, and that is sort of like a plot MacGuffin.
And a little bit of the
Yeah.
details around how Luke and Ray and Ben
Yeah,
fall
Ray and Ben
into-
still like coming together. I think the only way to really nail that is to just write the scene script form or treatment form
Straight
and,
up,
and
yeah.
really dive into the character interactions there and make it fun and interesting.
And are we seeing this through Luke's eyes?
The Senate thing?
Yeah.
No.
No, not
Luke only leaves the planet and then we cut to Leia and Lando. It's
Yeah.
just the two of them.
It's one of those editing things where they're like, we got to go see Leia. Cut to Leia.
Gotcha.
So they're not in the same place for that.
Okay. And then does Luke appear at the tail end of this scene?
No,
or-
Not
I
yet.
thought about doing that, but that's just some Game of Thrones season 8 shit.
No,
I'm
we
not
need-
doing that.
It's a little convenient.
It's just a little bit too quick for me.
Yeah, we need some time.
Yeah.
We'll get back to them.
But
Okay.
yeah, they'll meet up in Act 2 and have some scenes together.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Sure thing.
But in terms of setting up all our characters, putting all the pieces into play and watching them spin onto the board, I feel like having the inciting incident after meeting Ray and Ben and doing all this stuff together, I'm really happy with how this is shaping up. And
Yep.
having Han and Chewie be kind of our damsels in distress who managed to escape with Finn.
Yeah.
And having some really fun comedic relief there.
It sets up. It might seem like a lot too, because it sets up like 4 different hero plot lines
Yes.
and the villain plot line, but they do then consolidate into just 2.
Yes, so we sat and mapped it out because it does start very broad because all of these characters, the villains and the heroes and everything, are all starting in very different, disparate locations.
Yeah.
But the further you go through the story, the more consolidated they
Yeah.
become, and the more like the fewer streams of story there are.
Yes, and you can tell that there is also a consistent through line in the setup before and then the reaction to the firing of the Kyber laser. It's
Yeah.
all because of that incident.
Yeah, and yeah, that's something I was like arguing really hard for. Is like it has to be just the laser because if we have too many things going on with like 5 or 6 different story streams and there's a different inciting incident for each one, it's just going to be too messy. So the laser kind of ties them all together. But yeah, let's do break into Act 2. Was it just you who was just reading then? Or
Yeah,
me? Yeah.
yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Time for the guns and fame section.
Mellow, of course, refers to the fun and games part of the Save the Cat beat sheet, which is usually my favorite part of any movie. We've got Act 2. Sandra, you got anything you want to jump in?
Yeah. No. It does start off very broad. It seems like it's quite smooth, but yeah. I guess my only like sort of qualm on how that would translate is it feels like you're seeing like so many different perspectives. Like we have so many different characters, but we're all looking from a different perspective every time. Like
Yeah.
we're seeing like Ray's perspective from Ben's eyes on Arc 2, and then we sort of just enter the room on Hosnian Prime with Leia and Lando.
Yeah.
And then we have the Han and Chewie stuff and Finn stuff at the start of the movie, but also like halfway, also a few scenes in afterwards of them escaping, and then additionally Phasma as well. It's a lot of different perspectives.
Look, when we paste it out though, I think it works. Because so many of these storylines are all like interwoven. So
Yeah. It is a very sprawling, and that is kind of my issue with it, but I cannot think of any other possible way to really approach the story. And I think consolidating Finn, Han, and Chewie into one story thing has really helped us lock in that early part of the story there.
Grounding a new character with one of the old characters.
And having Finn be the perspective through which you engage with Han and Chewie, and even Phasma in the early part of the story there. Because that's coming from his perspective, and then the Arc 2 stuff is from Ben's perspective, and the space station stuff is from Rey's.
Yeah.
So those are still our three main characters.
Yes.
And we only really start on Han and Chewie at the very, very beginning, and after that, it's all through Finn's perspective.
Plus, there's kind of like, there's no other way we get the best of all worlds, which is old generation, new generation, and more importantly, villains.
Yeah. I think that's something that A New Hope has the luxury of doing when it starts the story, is it's like, you don't see Luke
everyone's
Skywalker.
dead.
Yeah.
For one.
You don't see Luke Skywalker until 20 minutes into the film. But when you start it, it's just Leia and the Rebels, and then they get shunned out of the story for a bit, and then it's Darth Vader and the robots, and then the robots meet Luke, and then they're kind of
So are we saying all the space station stuff is from Finn's perspective?
Space station stuff is from Rey's perspective.
Oh, no, sorry. Like evil villain.
The evil villain stuff in the first early part of the story is almost all from Finn's perspective, because you need to show like why he cares about the situation, why he wants to run away.
Yeah, cool.
After that, when we're cutting back and forth, it's going to become a lot more like the heroes versus Grand Moff Tarkin. And they're cutting back and forth with the evil guys. But it has to shift a little bit around so that we can have, these three characters come from completely different story areas to meet each other.
Yeah. But also pacing wise, so it'd be a long first act.
We do think it's going to end up being a very long first act.
Which I'm so fine with, because like what we're talking about is the amount of content that they tried to cram into Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
And that was trash.
Yeah.
Because they just rushed through a billion different locations without explaining or establishing worlds or why characters are where they are.
That's because movies that run for 3 hours long are bad, Carmelo.
They are. This one only runs for 2.5.
Yeah, depending on like, a million things, and it's hard to predict like how long a movie will be, but I think it's safe to say that this movie deserves a really long first act because we have so many characters and perspectives to really set up and dive into.
20 years.
And 20 years of history that we don't want to just throw out the window, which is exactly what the sequels did, and it's kind of our biggest problem with them. And really taking the time to establish where these heroes are and where these characters are and what they've been doing and what they're facing now with this new problem, and giving them the respect and time to do that. Deserves a really long first act, but I think, shortening the time up as we consolidate the stories and they kind of rush towards each other in the end point is what we're kind of heading towards. But yeah, okay. That's the perspective we've got. But shall we go into Act 2? Ben and Rey get to know each other while traveling through hyperspace. Ben is cocky and charming, while Rey is cold and distrustful. They arrive at Takodana and land at the spaceport there. The two hunt for Finn together, exploring the strange port city, eventually finding Finn trying to arrange transport with Imperial remnant soldiers. Ben and Rey try to get to Finn, but bounty hunters get there first, and a huge street fight breaks out. Ben and Rey manage to get Finn alone and offer him a deal, and he takes them into the sewers that lead out of town.
Why do I feel like their dynamic will be a bit like Han and Leia?
Yes.
Sort of stuff.
That's kind of,
Bounty hunters are going after Finn?
Yes.
As well?
He's a part of the bounty, and other people got the bounty puck, assumedly.
Gotcha.
The same one that Rey's got.
Oh, no, okay. Yeah. No, that makes
We get
sense.
this fun little hit out with all these,
just a big street fight, and you've got Rey and Ben trying to get to Finn trying to get away from everyone, and the bounty hunters trying to get to Finn. It'll be a bit of a chaotic situation.
Yeah. And whilst fear definitely plays a key, it's still a key theme and plays a key role in all these characters' lives, I think we'll very literally see that through through Finn, especially in this
He's
portion.
just terrified.
Well, yeah, he's just on the run.
And in my head, he's now become our perfect comedic relief character because he's the unlikely hero that saves Han and Chewie. And then they sort of crash land on Takodana together, which I haven't got in here, but it's happening somewhere in there, like in the beat sheet.
It can happen off screen and be explained later.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They get winged in the escape out of there, and they sort of crash land on the planet. Doesn't matter. And then in this scene, he's going to be the comedic relief as well, trying to just escape everyone. And then when Ben and Rey get him alone in some kind of alleyway, and they offer him this deal, he's like, "Fine, sewers," and they jump into the sewers.
Yeah. But also, put a gun in his hand. He's still fantastic.
Oh, he's still good. He's still a soldier. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
My turn? Your turn.
You take this next bit of fun and games.
So Luke arrives on Hosnian Prime and talks to Leia, who asks for help dealing with Hux so that the New Republic can save Han and Chewie. At this point, Han and Chewie manage to radio into Leia and Luke and reveal Phasma's plan to destroy the New Republic capital on Hosnian Prime. Ben, Rey, and Finn exit the sewers into the jungle of Takodana and begin their long walk to the Falcon. During their adventure, they bicker in the hot jungle, must work together to fight off a jungle monster, and have a nice scene around a campfire before sleeping for the night. During their dreams, Ray and Ben both share a force vision, which wakes them up in time to fight off a bounty hunter, or potentially an aforementioned jungle monster, if we might just allude to it.
Yeah, so the jungle monster stuff and all the fun and game stuff can be kind of put in any order to make the best, most entertaining possible fun and game section, but it all works and fits really well in there. We've finally got the jungle adventure, we're making it work.
It is. But it is at this point that I have to bring up the point where it's like, is this where we're seeing some slightly less than subtle force stuff from Ray?
Yes.
Not just in the visions though, right?
Oh, okay. So I've been hard against this because I don't believe you should be using the force without training. But
no,
Mello,
you shouldn't be using the force without training, but it's stuff like the fact that Anakin as a 9-year-old is a really good pilot. Luke is a really good pilot. Now they're both the same example.
Yeah.
We've only ever seen it used when it comes to piloting, and I believe that there's other ways that we can show
also get
subtle force ability.
Like that near-death experience with Luke in the
Wampa
cave.
Yeah, but he had been shown that the force is a thing by then, and he had Obi-Wan use the force, Luke, and then maybe he'd been like, I guess I'll try some shit, and try and learn the force stuff. But the difference with Rey is this is her first adventure, and I love the idea that she's using it without it being obvious, but I don't want there to be a super jump or a force pull. I'm thinking more in the street fight in the spaceport, maybe she's just landing shots like crazy, and she's really lucky when it comes to blaster shots.
I was even thinking as something as bloody just some sort of sense.
Yeah.
Some sort of sixth sense in a little way, where it's like
a spider sense,
kind of a spider sense.
Right before the monster comes up, she has that Peter Parker in Spider-Man 2 when he knows the car's getting thrown at him in the cafe.
But not so obvious.
I wouldn't mind a very subtle thing like that where she just turns and it just so happens to be slightly before something happens.
Yeah.
But that's kind of hard to get across in the script without it. And
it's a visual thing.
It is more of a visual directing thing as opposed to something that you'd write into a script. Because if you're putting it in the writing, it feels like it's a Chekhov's gun thing. If you're going to put it in there, it's got to the bullet has to hit in the third act kind of thing. And I don't really see a third act bullet hit of Rey using the force powers like that.
There's a big fight in the third act.
Yes.
Her detecting a blaster fire bolt before it hits her. That same sort of extent. Okay, midpoint?
Yeah, midpoint. Actually, before we do move on from that, we had a little thing there where I mentioned that potentially Han and Chewie are doing repairs on the Falcon.
Yeah.
And they managed to get a message through to Leia from Takodana and say oh, this is Phasma's plan. She wants to destroy Hosnian Prime, etc., etc. So that's kind of where we see Han and Chewie re-enter the story in a way. And I think that's the only note. Sandro, you got any questions about this, the fun and game section?
No.
But yeah, so that's our fun and game section. In no particular order, we have adventure through the jungle. They're bickering with each other. They fight off a jungle monster. They have a nice scene around the campfire. And then we have Ray and Ben share a force vision. Nice. So those are the things that we definitely have in mind for what our scenes look like in fun and games. Then, midpoint. At the end of their adventure, they find Han and Chewie at the almost fully repaired Millennium Falcon. Ben gets to reunite with his dad, but Ray is not happy with the new deal. She still wants money, and it's looking like she won't be able to get any of the bounty targets. So she decides to call in Phasma. Phasma attacks, and all the characters are captured. And potentially, Phasma gets her launch key back for the kyber laser. So these are all in brackets because it's like, will we do this? Will we not do this?
Will we won't? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So that's the midpoint. That's the thing that changes everything and reveals the rest of the story.
Yeah, interesting. Do we talk about the key now, or do you still want to talk about the key later?
I will circle back to the key when we get to the third act section.
Yeah.
We're nearly there.
It's more crucial there.
Yes, it is very crucial in the third act.
And the key thing I don't mind later because so we originally had it, Sandro, that it's like it'll happen in this Act 2B section as we're going to go into.
Yeah.
And then it only becomes a player within the back half of the film. Bryce has just added it to the front half because it can also work there.
It can also work there, and like I just mentioned with Chekhov's gun, if you fire a gun in the first act, it should hit in the third act. Yeah. I feel like something like that is plot integral, like a key, similar to the Goober from Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
If you're going to use it in the third act, it should be there in the first.
That's the thing I've always found really impractical about Chekhov's guns.
Yeah.
They just fire so slowly. Bad guys close in. So, during the Senate debate, it's clear that Hux has the upper hand, but the debate is sealed when an assassin tries to kill Hux. Luke prevents this, but Hux has won. The threat of the First Order has already reached Hosnian Prime. Disgusted, Leia resigns from the Senate and leaves with Luke.
We'll stop there, sorry, Mello. I definitely took some creative license with that
That's
one.
okay.
Because we never agreed on whether the assassination would happen.
It's good.
But I just chucked it in
It
there.
skips the thing that we don't have time for anymore, which is dinner scene.
Yeah,
But,
we do, yeah.
But, okay, the assassin, though.
Yeah.
Is it from the First Order?
Potentially, or it could be a setup from Hux.
I would much rather it be from Hux.
Yeah.
As a political sort of device,
Yeah.
Cool. But then he's showing that the Jedi are more than capable at defending.
So
that's not a part of it.
That's not really a part of the debate in
get,
this one.
I get it, but also it also brings into question, why wouldn't that up boost morale from the Senate for Jedi and also incorporate them into their new force.
Because it's more about like Leia is trying to get a rescue team together to go and save Han and Chewie. And Hux is like, no, bring all ships back to Hosnian Prime, maximum defense, and then we start building our own laser. It's more like a nationalist versus like
Yeah.
trying to stay the course.
I like what you're saying though, because we can flesh this scene out to the extent where it's like if Luke is there visibly as a public figure, we now welcome the presence of Jedi Master Luke Skywalker, and a lot of people are like, ooh, and a lot of people are like, fuck you, lightsaber wielding fuck. I'm just
Whoa.
Darth Vader's
Jesus.
fucking son. Fuck off. Get out of here.
I feel like Luke Skywalker stopping an assassination in a Senate room would like be cause for applause. It's like when Harvey Dent punches the guy with the gun on the stand.
Yeah.
In the Dark Knight.
No, that's fair. And that's why it's still kind of nebulous as to how this whole assassination plays out. And even if we bother with it, because the important thing is that Hux wins and Leia loses and leaves the Senate. That's what really matters.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, my point from that being though is like Luke's presence can simply prompt someone to raise. It's like, why we're stuff with the Kyber crystal? We have the Jedi. Well, let's call it Jedi, and then Luke can have his moment to say to them, it's like, I am not involved in your bullshit.
Yeah, no, the Jedi and the Republic should not be like conjoined like they were.
cool.
In
Yeah,
the days
and
of the
that might
Republic.
piss a bunch of people off.
We don't get a scene of Luke landing on Hosnian Prime.
I did seem to have skipped that.
Oh, we'll have to.
But that does happen. That does happen. Oh, no. Luke arrives on Hosnian Prime and talks to Leia, and then Han and Chewie radio call them from Takodana.
Gotcha.
That happened in Fun and Games.
Once again, trapped aboard Phasma's warship, Han and our heroes try to form an escape plan. Ben is furious with Rey, but Han wants to give her a second chance despite her betrayal. He understands Rey and was once a lot like her. They launch the escape plan just as Leia and Luke come to break them out. Phasma closes in, and during the escape, Han Solo is fatally shot.
Yeah. So again, I don't know. I can't imagine the mechanics of this action set piece, but I know that's the important thing that needs to happen.
Yes.
On their way out, Han is fatally shot.
Sacrificing himself, and it has to have an effect on Luke and Ben's relationship.
Yeah, I think so.
So Rey, Ben, Finn, Han, Chewie are all trapped on this base.
Yep.
And Luke and Leia come in to break them out.
Yes.
Just Luke and Leia?
Yeah, I suppose
Maybe
so,
Lando flying the Falcon.
I'm still not sure what to do with Lando because Leia resigns from the Senate, but
Yes.
I don't think Lando should because he wants we want him to be like the man on the ground sort of thing, the man on the street in the next movie.
Yeah,
So, like, what's happening in
He
the
still
Republic.
needs to be their political sort of like voice. I
Yeah.
suppose. Yeah, or just like info person.
Yeah, but then this is what I'm imagining is like we get the old gang back together and our new characters, and they get one last hurrah before Han Solo gets shot, sacrificing himself to help them get off the ship.
Yes. So whilst we've only had like a video call with all of our old heroes, and then we get this little rescue scene before we are going to kill
Is this
one.
rescue scene like a big scene?
That's a big.
This is a
scene.
big set
This
piece,
is
yeah.
the big thing of Act
So is
2B.
Luke Skywalker really showing off in this?
Do we get Luke Skywalker?
Oh, fuck yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
for sure.
Because I don't imagine them like sneaking on like how they snuck onto the Death Star in like costumes.
No, they can fight their way in and out,
Yeah.
and also they have R2D2 potentially who can cause a distraction.
Yeah, we get Luke's equivalent of the Vader hallway scene,
Different to the Mando
but
scene, though.
different to the Mando scene where he can't cut him up because he's Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
He's just like fucking flinging them like rag dolls into the walls. Everyone's unconscious.
No BB-8.
BB-8's raised droid doesn't really matter.
I honestly was thinking, I'm like, we could scrap BB-8 from this entirely and have him introduced in the next movie.
Okay, I always
It's
hate
more
this.
a question rather than a whip.
Here's my argument for BB-8, and it's a weak argument, but it's also one that each of us have used at some
I
point.
love him.
He's great.
Star Wars has droids. BB-8 is a droid.
He
Therefore, we need BB-8.
True.
Yes,
we
yeah.
have used that argument before.
It's just a hard set
Yeah.
argument.
We'll just say he's a raised droid and it can be helpful and he can be a hindrance.
Now, we've gotten way closer to the end of the show than I thought we would, so I'm just going to quickly bang out the low point, which is our last beat that I've written down,
Sick.
and then we'll have an open discussion.
Cool.
So, our heroes manage to escape on the Millennium Falcon, and Han Solo dies surrounded by his friends and family.
And Rey.
And Rey.
and
Yeah.
Finn.
They're there
And
too.
Rey and Finn and BB-8.
Ben is filled with rage and blames Rey. Rey is distraught and confused by the Force. Luke and Leia must help them both. Kind of nebulous. And this is where we're really getting to running off the tracks of this one, because now we've hit almost Act 3,
Yeah.
and it's a lot of question marks of how this
And
action
Phasma
set
has the
piece-
key.
And
Yes.
Phasma has the key, or doesn't she have the key? We're not sure,
No.
because we're not sure about the key yet.
All
so
right.
So
that's what we're diving into now.
I will unpack that bit first because there's a lot of stuff in there. Some really great moments we get to have. So I've pitched a while back this scene between Rey and Luke, in which they have this. Obviously, he knows that she's got the Force. He's just like that, and they have this like nebulous conversation about, this feeling inside of her that she's always suppressed, without ever talking about the Force, beating around the bush bit. I love it. We have some "Don't talk to me, Dad" moments between between Ben and Luke as well.
This is just like the Falcon, sad times on the Falcon Part 2.
Yeah.
At the end of A New Hope.
Yeah, but it's real sad times.
Actual sad times, not
No,
just...
Luke was really sad about Obi-Wan dying.
Yeah,
And
who
what
wasn't
about
sad?
Leia?
Yeah, the people in this one we make up for it because they get their time.
Exactly.
So they all go back to Hosnian Prime though. That's a given.
So that's what we're thinking is the fourth action set piece. It's the final, the third act, big dramatic conclusion is on Hosnian Prime. Because Phasma, that's her target now.
Interesting.
She wants to destroy the New Republic. And I guess now if she has the key, she has the power to do that, and that's where she's heading. And that would be a big action set piece. But then, this is, we've talked about this, Mello, is it would be, shot for shot, A New Hope, where, she's charging up the laser to fire on Hosnian Prime, the capital city there. And that's why we were like, okay, well, what if they take the key in the low point, or just before they escape Phasma's ship, and the whole crux of the action is Phasma trying to get that key back. So the
while
key's getting
still launching like a space battle.
So that's why she's boots on the ground on the streets of Hosnian Prime.
So that's why initially the key was maybe set up as something that Phasma has, but wasn't stolen initially until this Act 2B action point. So that in the third act, it's like she'll launch in like a space fight as a distraction to go onto the ground and get this key back.
Cool. So we're going to talk about the key now?
Yes.
Okay. It's finally time to talk about
Here's my pitch for this key and why I think it works. A lot of what we've talked about with this, with the whole Kyber lasers thing in general, is that they are a really interesting analog for nuclear weapons, which is sort of how they're used in the original trilogy as well. But
they don't go into it.
They don't go into it too much, but having just, a key that sort of looks like nuclear launch codes, and having Phasma be like, this is mine, no one else gets this is my thing.
Yeah, and that's how
I don't trust anyone.
That's how she walks around the ship too, being like, haha, fuck you, Stormtrooper, this is my key, you don't get a key, I get a key.
How does Finn steal it then?
Finn steals it off her and runs away with it. And that's why she puts out a huge $1 million bounty on Finn.
Cool. You hadn't quite told me until you told me that only she gets to hold it.
Yeah.
Because initially the idea of a key, whilst like I get the callback to sort of like this Cold War, will they, won't they use these weapons?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. It seems like a good way to implement this item. Where it loses me is Phasma's already keen and already has shown that she will use this item.
Yes.
So the sort of like question on the key being like a significant item is like, or loses
the
all
moment
its
that you
gravitas.
see in like X-Men First Class,
Yes.
where they're like, they're hovering right above it, they don't want to fire the thing. Is not exactly the parallel we're getting in this movie. It's more like Phasma really wants to use it, and she's gonna do it.
She's gonna use this item.
Yeah.
Then there's another question of like the Death Star tech never needed a key. It was always just charging sequence, blam blam, blam,
Exactly.
blam, blam.
I mean, you can add a key to literally anything. Like, you can just make it that like, it doesn't work though unless it's like initiated using this thing. It's the same thing as a password, really. It's just a physical object. But that's one of my gripes with the key. But it becomes a bit more understandable where she's like very greedy with it. She's like, no, only I am like worthy of this power.
Yeah.
It's very
That's kind of where I'm coming at it from her character. And then her like intense desire to have it back is like, no, this is what makes me special is I have the power of destruction. The same way Palpatine did 20 years ago.
Yeah, and she's our sort of like, that's our sort of like through line from Palpatine and Vader. Like she sees herself as this embodiment of those two and what they stood for.
Yeah.
And, it feels like she's, got this divine purpose to restore the Empire.
Fuck, that's something I never thought about before, that maybe she sees herself as the ultimate combo of Vader and Palpatine. Maybe that's interesting.
Yeah.
She's like, I've got the genius and strategy of Palpatine and the might and
and she can actually fight and wears
of Vader.
a weird suit.
So my next thing, just following along with your geysers, following along with you guys for where you guys just ended, where they escape on the ship, but then she sends all boots on the ground. Why isn't she sending like a space attack on them as they're escaping?
Oh no, there would be. You'd need your
There'd be escape attack, but I think we just want the Millennium Falcon to get away and jump to hyperspace in that moment, because at the low point we've got Han Solo bleeding out. We can't be having a space fight there.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
Han Solo's bleeding out corpse is waiting for a nice, beautiful, touching moment.
But Phasma's character-wise, it makes sense for her to send ships out.
Oh, she'd send ships out. I think we just need to have it be like they jump to hyperspace quickly.
A quick hyperspace.
Yeah. They had 20 years to properly fix the Falcon, and it doesn't have any problems anymore.
And they're right near a hyperspace
But they just
line.
crashed it
Goddamn.
again.
What's that?
They just crashed it again.
Yeah, but they fixed it.
Yeah,
It's
Okay.
fine.
No, I'm so fine with that.
I see what you mean, and Phasma definitely would, but I think just for the emotional, like, moment of that
No, I
of that
agree.
scene. It
Yeah.
can't happen.
Brings me to, I kind of really liked where you were in your episode 3 pitch.
Yeah.
Where
The final battle was at the space station.
Yeah, and Phasma's downfall was like her personal, like not
It was a
personal
personal
attachment,
vendetta against
personal
Rey.
vendetta, like her how quick she is to anger and
Yeah.
to revenge, that it completely like undermines her like task. I thought that was really fun, like a really fun flaw to the villain.
Yeah.
Additionally, separate point now is if a key exists, I don't see it not getting destroyed after it gets stolen.
That's a good point.
Like they
Why wouldn't they just destroy the key?
destroy the key?
No, I have had that thought as well.
So I've toyed with it not being a key, but a core piece of technology that it's like, okay, so if in then, say, New Republic's hands, well, they could use that. Obviously, they need other shit to build kyber weapons, but I don't know if it's a key piece of technology where if they steal it, it's like, okay, so like the laser's disabled, you can't use it without this thing. Then it's less personal to Phasma, but it's still core to her, her weaponry.
Yeah, but they'd still destroy it because, like, as we've seen, the galactic opinion is that these weapons shouldn't exist.
Yeah.
And we see that through Leia's scene, so I feel like they'd still destroy it anyway.
The main heroes definitely would. They would try to destroy it. And I think that's a very good criticism of the key and why it doesn't exactly fully work yet.
Yeah, that's my main issue with the key. I do see the reason for the key, though, obviously, because without the key, Phasma can just go shooting lasers willy-nilly, and that's a bit insane.
Exactly. My biggest problem with Act 3 is that we have the really tricky problem of having Rey and Ben are on the hero's journey, and this is their chance to overcome all of the challenges that have been put against them and to live and embody the theme through action.
Yep.
And really embody the story and do the third act thing. We also have Luke Skywalker there.
Yeah.
Makes it difficult.
Well, so let's talk about that for a sec. So let's run with an idea that, okay, putting the motivations behind it aside.
Yeah.
That Phasma, with her newly assembled, Imperial whole group that she's got.
It is important, to establish quickly. There is a scene in there somewhere where Phasma is like, cool, I have killed all your leaders, join me, and they all join her.
Yeah.
Yeah, and her army, swells exponentially.
After a bit of objecting and maybe a bit of skirmishing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which keeps her distracted for a good part of the film.
That's a good point.
But anyway, they do unite. The heroes, villains unite. And then they launch an attack on Hosnian Prime, let's say. Within this bit, we get our grand battle. Where else we get a space battle? No one core is involved in that, space battle. It just has to happen. So whilst on the ground, we get some bits where it's like Rey gets a chance to prove that she is embracing her true self more. She's being less selfish. So she gets to, defend people, say, care about other people, care about the greater cause. We get to see Ben kind of start to go off the rails, want to do the, quote, hero thing as he misunderstands it and try to kill Phasma.
Yeah.
And Luke trying to stop him doing that. And then in turn, potentially those two fighting. We would have Ben just be, kind of off the walls. And then, Rey might want to protect him from himself as well, stop him from going too far. He would just leave at the end of it all, realizing that he's just lost and confused and disillusioned with Luke and the Jedi and just going his own way. We can talk about resolution stuff because we're kind of aligned on where things end up.
We definitely have a similar idea of what the resolution looks like.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, so First Order doesn't get a big win here.
No.
But they have shown their hand enough to the point where it's like they have now started a war.
Yeah.
The New Republic is fully embracing this kyber tech, and it'll take them as long as it takes. They live to fight another day. Hux lives to fight another day. Now is this, new radical leader.
Does the Imperial Remnant live to fight another day?
Yeah, they all
They
run
do.
away.
They do. They suffer
Including
a loss.
Phasma?
I say yes.
I've killed Phasma in my beat sheet, but we're still undecided on whether Phasma lives or dies.
I'm leaning towards the yes side.
Yes to kill. Yes
Yeah.
to live.
Oh, sorry. Yes to live.
Yes to live. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want her to still be the through villain.
I want her to be
Yeah.
a through villain as well. I want to bring her back as a zombie. And this is Sandro's giving me a funny look.
Let's continue with the known stuff.
Thanks, Cole.
That is a pretty cool Forfang fan idea.
God damn.
No, we'll circle back to that one.
Having-
Hey, tell us what you think in the comments about zombie Phasma.
About Star Wars zombies.
Oh god. Having proven herself
Damn it.
having proven herself when it mattered most, Luke would want Rey to. Luke would want to, potentially train Rey to be a Jedi, and which she'd say she's open to learning more about the Force, but not necessarily about the Jedi. Her journey over this film has been opening up to something larger. That is both meaning in the Force and just learning to care about something other than herself.
So my thing that I'm coming down on is that Rey learns to care about people, and in particular Ben and Finn.
Yeah.
That she really becomes friends with these people, and that's what drives her to actually go to Hosnian Prime and give a shit about it at all. because it's Finn and Ben there who need her help.
Mm.
And she wants to help them and be their friends. And ultimately, like, she'll need to save Ben, and that's kind of her journey.
This is on the Falcon.
What do you mean?
Like, when does she make this decision?
It'll have to be after the low point when she talks to Luke, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
At
that's
which
something-
point she's stuck on the Falcon anyway. So
Exactly. She could have an out somewhere, but
Yeah,
I
that's
think
true.
because to me, what you said earlier about the space station being really interesting because it makes Rey the direct antagonist to Phasma, and then it shows Phasma's flaw of just pursuing revenge and vengeance and stuff and being so angry. And that really helps tie it to Rey's character. But in the grand scheme of the story, I think Mello's makes more sense to have the climactic battle be on Hosnian Prime, because in the terms of the galactic threat, it makes way more sense to have that be a part of the story and to have the Battle of Hosnian Prime take place in the first movie.
Plus, you
Yeah,
always ground the sort of grander journey that the character's gone on. So if Rey's learning to care about other people, we're just going to show that through her new friends, you know?
And
Gotcha.
I think if you look at something like Attack of the Clones, where it's like the whole third act takes place on Geonosis, and you have the beginning of the Clone Wars really kick off with that battle of Geonosis, and you look at the grand scheme of like, oh, well, we're literally seeing the beginnings of this war. If we're seeing the beginnings of this war on a random space station that no one knows the name of, as opposed to on Hosnian Prime, the galactic capital of the New Republic, it's just a lot better in terms of world building and storytelling, if you get what I mean.
Does this mean we're going to do war?
Yeah, we're going to do war. What do you
Is
mean?
this
Star Wars?
Of course we're gonna do war.
Star Wars? We're
Yeah,
doing Star Wars?
Yeah, well, that's what's great. So core thing about the end of this film. This is the inception point of the war. This is our Attack of the Clones. We're not going to wait until episode 8 to start the war. The war starts now.
Yeah,
with
and
this
the
battle.
war like kicks off here.
Yeah, which is great.
This is great.
But
And
what-
it's good.
Yeah.
This is good.
And then our final point, where is Leia and Luke, and then also Finn as well. Leia's key objective from here is that, right, she's done with the New Republic. New Republic has become something she can't agree with.
Yeah.
But the ultimate threat of this kyber weaponry, which will tear the galaxy apart,
Mhm.
still exists. It is her purpose to now defeat it. So she'd have to assemble an independent strike force, a rebellion, as you will.
A resistance, perhaps.
Yes.
Some kind of suicide squad.
Yeah. But that would put our characters in a really interesting position where they're not with the big, grander, quote, good guys. They're
Yeah.
not with the villains.
They're
Yeah.
somewhere by themselves, kind of
Yeah.
underdogs. Yeah.
And they're having to do the right thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Which I really like. And it's something we've been like, oh, well, you can't just have the heroes of the Republic be the main heroes of the movie because they have, okay, cool, we'll just use our infinite resources to
Exactly.
solve all our
Plus,
problems.
we've seen that, and we've seen what that leads to.
What do you mean?
Clone Wars.
Oh, yeah, I guess as well. Like, that there's kind of like an inherent
Yeah,
flaw
but
there.
okay, so is the continuation from this movie, though, trying to stop that war or trying to end it?
It's
Trying to stop the war,
Stop the
for
tech
sure.
to stop the war.
Yeah, stop like kyber weaponry being a thing in general. And that'll be like
Interesting.
episode 8. I think we're really interested in seeing like an investigation into
Yeah.
where's all this kyber shit coming from in the first place.
Yeah.
And then that'll
Yeah.
take us to the crime underworld.
And then we can raise the real philosophical question of, let's look at the real world. Take away nukes, where do we stand?
It's you know what?
What threats do we have against each other?
It's a big topic to throw at the end of the show.
It
Jesus
is.
Christ.
Well, we'll talk about that next week.
Yeah, no, for
Um,
sure. But I do love diving into the whole Cold War stuff and the nuclear weaponry stuff.
Okay.
It's fun.
So how do you imagine? Okay, can we circle back to the key?
Yes. For me, it's hard to imagine why Phasma would be boots on the ground, and we don't want to do a space battle. We don't want it to have like, oh, the lasers lining up to fire on Hosnian Prime, because we've done that before. We
Yeah,
want
we
to do
don't want
something
that.
different, and we want to have the idea of Phasma sieging the capital on the ground, trying to take the fight to the city to get the key back. And that's the whole crux of the fight. If she gets the key, she wins. And then so when you talk about scheduling out a third act, it can be the first part of that is Phasma sieges the ground, works it towards, and then, they're having the fight. Hightail surprise, Phasma manages to get through, get the key, and then she manages to get on a transport and escape. And they have their final duel on the shuttle as it's going back up to the ship, and they're dueling inside the transport, which could be really fun.
I feel like it would be interesting to, in a way, to like show off Luke's strength and then take him out of the final fight.
Yes.
Is for him to disable the cannon during the rescue.
Yeah, and that's something we've talked about as well, is if he just permanently takes it out, then there's no chance for it to be online ever
Yes,
again.
in
And
which-
then Phasma's like, well, I've got no choice but to do a ground siege.
No, exactly. Is she then still
Does she even,
that
yeah.
Or would
spiteful and would
she-
still launch the attack without her big weapon? Has she?
Yeah.
Has she?
Or would she retreat and try come back another
Well, that's
day?
the thing. I think, do we build that false sense of confidence where she's like, fuck it, I might have not have my lasers, but I have my force now. I have my
have
my
a
empire.
massive army, yeah.
And then is the assumption she is still building her army in between 7 and 8?
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh, for sure.
absolutely.
Yeah, and
Okay,
then
cool.
then it becomes this like
an actual
pretty
force.
formidable force.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool.
And it becomes a nuclear arms race of everyone's got to try and build up
Mm.
their arsenal.
And she's still getting ships from those Imperial remnants and maybe like doing them up so that they also might have kyber technology.
It would be
well.
like an opening crawl thing come 8, where it's
Yeah.
like she's kind of now she's taken all these Imperial sects and she's taken the the underworlds, and then just united them. So kind of like the Outer Rim is her fucking playground to
Yeah.
do with whatever.
So it could be a
resources she
question of
wants.
like, did she just get too excited with the power too fast and go for a ground siege?
Depends on how we
it's just
build
like
up.
the key. There's too many times where I'm like, this key could be like either destroyed by the good guys.
We make it the ring. From
One
Lord of the
ring.
Rings. It's like you can't just destroy it.
One does not simply
Yeah.
smash the ring.
Because either way, if they're going back to Hosnian Prime, Luke's cutting that thing up.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think if you have a lightsaber, you can't say, "Oh, it's lightsaber proof." It's just silly.
It's a Beskar key.
Oh, what you gonna do?
What are you gonna do about it, dude? Can't break it.
Take it to that like get any forge just to melt it down.
Yeah, exactly. You just take it to a Mandalorian forge.
Also, like it's a key. You could make more than one key.
And you can make more than one key. There's a bunch of things for it.
they go to like any like supermarket with like a key shop in
They
the
go-
center.
They go to known galactic locksmith Babu Frick to get a replica.
Oh, that's chill,
key.
guys. We'll just go to my old friend Babu Freak. He builds all my shit.
Babu Frick is the keymaster from the Matrix.
Oh my god. I do love Matrix Reloaded, but I don't know if that's the road we're gonna go down, Sandro.
I think we should have some Hugo Weaving clones.
Yeah. Yes.
Did someone say Palpatine clones? And it's just
Played
Hugo.
by Hugo
It's just
Weaving.
Hugo Weaving now. But yeah, so these questions of what the third act looks like is definitely what Mel and I are going to be tackling this week, because as you can see, we're pretty confident with the first act and then most of the second act as well.
And the character journeys.
And
too.
the character journeys are still there. You know, we're still having this really interesting growth and progression of Rey
I think-
making a really bad decision and regretting it later.
Yeah, no, I think there's less question now in character journeys and even maybe, just like tiny questions on
Plot specific details.
plot specific details.
Which I'm
Which
happy to
is
be there.
probably-
actually.
Yeah,
Yeah,
It's a good place
It's
to
a
be.
good place to
Yeah,
be.
yeah.
Tell you what,
Yeah.
shit, it's
Like,
been a long road, man.
We've got the important thing, the thing
Yeah.
that matters. Now that other shit.
Yeah. So I guess we're closing off. So I'll give you that little thing that I was.
We're getting
Oh,
to the end, yeah.
Jesus, yeah. I
Okay,
forgot
yeah.
about
Hit us
this.
with the,
Yeah.
what's Rey's Spidey sense moment for you, Sandra?
Yeah. So I'm thinking during like certain scenes, like when she's stealing stuff on the space station, and like in that bar fight, and then later on in that jungle fight, we like alert to a bit of a Spidey sense.
Okay.
And then I didn't know like what the circumstance was where I just had this scene in my mind where she's up against like a first order person, and it seems like she's about to go like it's kind of like a Western showdown thing.
Okay.
And it seems like they're about to like draw pistols, but she uses her Spidey sense to like deflect the First Order's laser bolt with a lightsaber.
Okay.
But I don't know
Okay.
how she gets the lightsaber. I don't know any context for the setup there. But I'm just imagining like this is her big reveal that like, oh, she can like be a Jedi. Like she has the full capability to be a Jedi. And it's not like an insane power. Like this is something Luke learns on the ship on the way to the Death Star. Like this is like pretty standard Jedi training, is deflecting something with a lightsaber.
Yeah, like the reflexes to
The
anticipate
reflex.
the next movement of something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it just it strikes me as like nothing like too OP, something you can do without training. Something we see like Luke pick up within a matter of seconds
Yeah.
on a
I
hyperspace journey.
personally would love to see that more in episode 8 because I would love to have Rey define herself as a lightsaber and blaster Jedi. And just like a roguish Jedi like we kind of see in Jedi Survivor.
Yeah, I'm not saying her using a lightsaber and a blaster. I'm just saying like you in like the shot
I see what you
aspect,
mean.
You
but
set it up like it's a Western.
That's exactly what I'm saying. You set it up like it's a Western. You think she's going to use the blaster. And you kind of get that, you know, if she's a Jedi, she's using a blaster and a lightsaber. It makes more sense for it to be in episode 8 where she does the deflect as well. And she's like, oh, she's really cool. She's got the lightsaber.
That's true.
I feel like that works a bit better there. But
I think there should be like a defining show of ability.
I disagree. I think Rey has the skills of, she's pretty good with a blaster. In fact, she's sometimes freaky good with a blaster. I just don't see her as having enough time in this film to actually learn any Force abilities because she's not with a master. She's with Ben, who sucks. He doesn't know anything. He barely he's like, you know, a student. He doesn't know how to teach the Force to someone. He only sort of understands it for himself.
That's why I think the like Spidey sense aspect of the Force is a good direction to go because it's something that can be learned passively, or like pod racing being a crazy good pilot. It's something that you can just passively.
It's
sort
kind of the thing that's
inherit
always there
through
in a
training.
way.
When is someone shown to have Spidey sense with the Force?
that's why Anakin can pilot.
That's a
pod
good point.
races.
That's a good
Yeah.
point.
It's like it's a big deal behind like why they're such good pilots, and yeah, Luke training on the Millennium Falcon.
Look, man, it's that or Force speed. So
for speed.
Pick your option, man. No, I guess it's just a hard bridge for me to cross to see Rey using the Force at this point in the story in Act 3. But it also makes sense as really like a defining character moment to like dig down deep, use the Force, and overcome a challenge.
Yeah, like I don't want to doing like a full thing where she runs around with a lightsaber.
Yeah.
I'm thinking this is a moment.
Yeah.
And nothing but. And it's sort of through the foreshadowing in earlier fights comes full circle. And I think it's a lot more rewarding than rather her randomly being able to pull the lightsaber out of the snow from like miles away.
Yeah.
And then go into a full lightsaber fight with Kylo Ren.
Oh man, if you think Force Awakens is better than Last Jedi, you go and reevaluate some shit.
So
Nah, I'm not hard to call
I
on
have
that.
this.
They've both got
Yes,
strengths
you
and
are.
weaknesses. I think Last Jedi is better.
I have a bit of a weird idea where maybe Ben's trying to kill Phasma
Yeah.
at the end, and maybe Luke's trying to stop Ben.
yeah. That's what I've written.
That's what. There's definitely like versions of that we've got. Yeah.
Because he wouldn't let him. He wouldn't let. It's
No,
when
Luke definitely wouldn't.
Phasma finds herself defenseless at a moment, and Ben goes for the kill, not the Jedi way, and Luke's like, no, we're not doing that.
It's just a big bunch of question marks for me of what is happening and when are these things happening in relation to each other and why. Like,
And
what
what's
is
the geography of this fight?
The geography of the fight. Are they fighting in the Senate?
We'll map that out.
You know,
for sure.
are they fighting on a ship heading back up to Phasma's ship? Is she trying to activate the laser? Is the laser completely offline and not a part of the fight? All of these questions, and I think there's a bunch of really good ideas here. It's just landing solidly on what is the most important thing for the story.
But this is the trickiest job we've had, boys. We can do all this other stuff. We can write these character scenes, and we can do this other writing. But it's action.
Yeah.
Is hard.
Action is
Action
hard.
is
and,
hard.
Good
you know,
action is hard.
Third act, big action set piece, kind of hard to write down on paper because it's less about character and more about conclusion of character arcs through action.
We are going to have to go to storyboards.
Oh,
We're going to
yeah.
have to visualize.
Yeah. Any other final notes before we finish it up?
No.
Thanks, Sandro.
No, I'm really happy with like the progress. I think it was really rewarding to just come in, missing 2 episodes worth and like getting to hear some
Getting
like
the best
batshit
bits,
crazy
yeah.
stuff. I'm actually excited to go back and listen to episode 4 now
Oh, fun.
because
Exciting,
I haven't been able to listen to it yet.
Yeah, no, you're gonna having a bit
Is
of
it
a
out?
crazy week. It's out. Yeah.
Oh, it's out.
Came out on Friday. Every
Oh, it
Friday,
came out
Sandro.
on Friday. Fuck.
And you can find us here every Friday.
Yeah, you too can find us every Friday.
Every Friday. I thought it was Monday.
No, it's a Friday show. God damn. This has been Fixing the Sequel Trilogy, and we're here every week talking about Star Wars and writing. If you want to see more, you can find us on Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. And while you're there, make sure to give us a 5 stars or follow, etc., etc. Mello?
Every Friday.
Every single Friday.
Every Friday, baby.
Sandro.
We're always here.
We'll be back next week on Friday with the final part of Fixing the Force Awakens. But until then, may the Force be with you.
See you Friday.
Bye.